I know the city manager is right behind me. I was just in his office, so we'll go ahead and get started. Like to welcome everyone to the joint workshop of the Cape Coral City Council and the Cape Coral Charter School Authority Governing Board. Today is February 19, 2025. This meeting now comes to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, could you please call the roll and include the Charter School Governing Board? Here.
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 All present. For the Charter School Authority Governing Board, members Attiselli, Jackson,
Present.
Katine, Hilrain,
Here.
Michaels, Manaya, Santos, Hoagland, Parent Representative Hoagland, Shade, Soto, Rizzo, 5 present.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 2 on the agenda is citizens' input, which is a maximum of 45 minutes is set for input of citizens on matters concerning city government, 3 minutes per individual. How come we have 45 minutes on there?
When that template was created, it matched the Charter School Governing
Okay.
Board timeframe.
All right. Anyone wishing to speak during citizens' input will utilize the podium to my left, your right. You have 3 minutes. Please remember to state your name. Seeing no one interested in participating, citizens' input is now closed. And we will move on to item 3, which is business. 3A is the Oasis Sports Complex discussion. I'll turn it over to our city manager to start with.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to turn the presentation over to Avalon to go into the discussion.
Okay. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brendan Sloan. I'm Vice President and Director of Engineering at Avalon Engineering. I'm here to talk to you today about the design of the Oasis Sports Field project. With me here today, I have some key members of the design team. That includes the Avalon Engineering team, Tyler Peterson from PDS Architecture, Paul Owen from Owen Environmental, and Wes Allen from AstroTurf, who is our sports field design specialist. So to give you guys a little bit of a background on the location of the site, it's on the east side of Oasis Boulevard, just west of Ida Baker High School and south of the city RO plant and the new fire training facility, which will be open soon. The charter school itself was opened in 2005. It houses 4 schools in one. There are 2 elementary schools, a middle school, and a high school, totaling 3,453 students. The high school itself offers 23 competitive athletic teams for boys and girls. And the growth of the school is what is driving the need for the multi-sports field. And so to give a little bit of a background on existing site conditions and environmental, Joe Covaniello Park is to the south of the project site. There is an existing eagle there that has 3 nests, so there will be monitoring necessary during site construction. There are some existing wetlands on the project site totaling approximately 2.67 acres that will need to be mitigated for site construction as well. That mitigation will take place through the South Florida Water Management District permitting. So the design team worked very hard with the school board team, who's here today, and we took a look at multiple options on how the sports field and parking area and buildings would lay out, and we all kind of landed on the site design in front of you. The design team then worked through a budget and some design layouts and also included a couple of alternatives that we'll discuss today in the budget analysis. And so there's, in gray there, you'll see the overall site design that has the turf field and the buildings and the parking. In green there, that's alternate 1. If that's chosen to move forward, it would provide some additional parking and another access point out to the northwest for the school. We also showed alternate number 2 in blue there, and that is an additional access point that could be connected through Covignello Park's parking lot that would go out through Oasis Woods Lane and connect to Aquilinda Boulevard, where there's a full median opening. So there could be an additional exit for the sports field if we chose to move forward with that alternate. So we also did that budgeting effort that I discussed previously, and we did an overall budget with a contingency for the gray portion of that previous exhibit. We also added the alternate 1 and the alternate 2 to go along with the total cost with that contingency. And in this budget, we included the soft costs, which is the design professionals' cost to move the project from where it is today at the 30% design level through design and permitting for the project. So the overall site plan, which was that gray area that we looked at before, is approximately 9.61 acres. We have proposed approximately 7,076 square foot of building, and that building will include an on-site gym, a locker room facility, a concession stand with bathroom, and a maintenance building to house some of the maintenance equipment for the turf field. The area also has an area to the south of the locker room building there where some food trucks could be parked for special events with some tables and picnic areas for those events. The overall parking lot in dark gray there would have 265 parking spaces. If we were to include that alternate 1 to the north with the access point out to the northwest, you would get an additional 180 parking spaces for the school to assist them with the parking that they desperately need today for a total of 445 parking spaces. Obviously, we laid out the multi-turf or multi-sport field there in AstroTurf, and it also shows a 20-foot wide track with 8 lanes for competition. And we also have there's an 8-foot sidewalk that goes around the turf field itself for pedestrian accessibility. The bleachers for the home team comprise about 1,160 seats. For the visitors, would be about 580 seats on the right side of the screen there. And there is a fence that goes around the facility for security. The sports field will be used for both practice and for games, so it becomes kind of a dual-use item for the school. So we discussed access a little bit earlier. So on the left side of the screen there, you can see there are 3 access points that Oasis currently has on Oasis Boulevard, 2 of which are full median opening access points, and 1 of which in the center there is a right in and right out. In the green and red lines, dashes on that exhibit, it kind of shows how Oasis would utilize these access points to funnel traffic in and out to go along with the bus route after the facility is built. To the right is an additional exhibit showing how that alternate 2, that was the blue color on one of our previous exhibits, would connect to Joe Covignello Park and kind of come out through that parking area and then connect to that existing access road that's already built called Oasis Woods Boulevard that takes it all the way to Aquilinda Boulevard there with that full median opening. So obviously that's a discussion point and something the design team will kind of work with staff on moving forward with the project. As far as landscape goes, we propose code minimum landscaping with native landscape on the facility meeting the City of Cape Coral code minimum landscape requirements. You'll notice there that we are providing, most of the landscaping around the perimeter of the project to buffer the surrounding properties. And we have also shown no trees around the AstroTurf field itself to keep the root system away from the field. And so now I'm going to turn the presentation over here to our specialist and rep from AstroTurf, Wes Allen, and he's going to talk a little bit about the track and the turf field.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having us here today. My name is, like I said, Wes Allen. I'm the regional sales manager here in Florida for AstroTurf, also representing our track brand, Recretan. The track system that we have proposed is a true sandwich system. It is consisted of a polyurethane surface that is poured onto the asphalt and then sealed with a projection of the rubber granules. So if you're familiar with the rubber track, the little rubber granules that are on there are not dropped, they're actually broadcast to get a more even spread of those granules out there. Track is important for this. Obviously, it can be used by the school, it can be used by the community if the school chooses to do that. I think that would probably be the plan. Also, with this system, you're not only holding FHSA meets, but you would be able to hold Junior Olympic meets. This track is certified by the International Track Federation, so it would be a certified track at any level. The team has designed it to be an 8-lane track, which is the desire to host large meets. For an example, right now, Sarasota County's track team needs to travel to Apopka, Florida, in order to go to their Junior Olympic meets. So I'm sure that drive of an hour versus the 4 hours it now takes to get to Apopka would be much appreciated to have a local track nearby. As far as the turf field goes, these two slides you see on the left-hand side, that is a cross-section of the drainage for the turf field. Avalon has designed the drainage for it. That's one of the most important things, like building a house. Your foundation has to be good, or your top is not going to be right. The turf that we have proposed is our 3D352 turf. Think of turf as carpet. The higher the ounce weight, the more durable that turf is. Everyone always wants to know, okay, where is this at so we can go see it? Who's got it so we can call them? Paradise Cove down in Naples. This exact system is there in their stadium field. All the fields in their county for Park and Recs are this turf system. This turf is also at IMG Academy, all of Manatee County Public Schools, and Camping World Stadium in Orlando. So they just played the NFL Pro Bowl on this system. NFL came in and tested it. Obviously, it passed for the NFL, so it is going to pass for your local Park and Rec use as well as a high school use. This slide is natural turf versus synthetic. Obviously, a synthetic field to be installed is a little more expensive at the beginning, but over time you see the value in doing a synthetic field. Right now, a natural field in the state of Florida, at this time of year for sports, you've just played football, you've just finished soccer, and you're rolling into lacrosse. Those fields are typically, unless you have the funding to take care of that field correctly, and a maintenance individual on staff who is a grass grower by trade, those fields are typically destroyed. So you have unusable fields restricting kids from a place to play, and that's where we come in, and what we believe at AstroTurf is we're building places for kids to go play. We're offering them that opportunity to get out and use this field as much as they want. There's no restriction on the use of our turf. Use it 24 hours a day if you can. We want kids out there playing, being active, and getting exercise. And I think that's my last one.
Quick question.
Yes, sir.
What was the type of meet that you said that we wouldn't be able to have there?
No, you can host any meet. That is a National Track Federation certified track. You can hold any meet you want to there with that system.
I thought you said it was something we couldn't do.
No, sir. Excuse me? No, FHSAA you can hold for sure. They want an 8-lane track, and that system is certified for that. That system is certified all the way to the International Track Federation system, so you can hold any meet that you can.
Okay. All right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
What is the typical life expectancy of this track?
Excuse me?
What's the typical life expectancy of this track?
12 to 15 years. It's going to be proper maintenance. Maintenance on a track is washing the track periodically, just making sure your striping is still good. You may have to come back and restripe it around year 7 to year 10. The stripes tend to fade. That should be your only issues with it, as long as there's, nothing that drags across it that's going to puncture the track or cut the track.
And the only real maintenance is going to be putting the lines and marks?
Yes, sir. A track wash that our company provides, come out and big pressure washer. Looks like the old Zamboni for an ice rink, comes out and washes it. And you'll see over time, just because of the UV, that the paint will fade, just like any paint would fade.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Tyler Peterson. I'm the president of PDS Architecture. I'm going to walk you guys through the overall building design concepts here and hopefully answer any questions that you guys might have. The first slide here, we will see the main locker room and weight room. Our goal here was to take the existing locker room from the existing school and move it over here, provide a little bit more breathing room for the students. And then the locker room has been sized to accommodate multiple different sports and setups. We have a small picture here of the proposed lockers and then a cut section through the building. We are proposing all concrete construction, a precast concrete roof system, so very durable structure, very low maintenance systems here, low maintenance finish, stucco finishes. The proposed bleachers would be an aluminum system, so again, very low maintenance, long lifespan on the entire system. We do have an elevated announcer's booth there that kind of straddles the two wings of the building. That again, with large glass facing the field, all of the AV equipment. We do have a chairlift in there for handicap access up to that announcer's level. Again, just kind of bringing the overall facility into a modern day status. This is an exterior view of the overall system. We have the concession stand there on the right. We have the bleachers and then the weight room and training room there on the side. This would be an enlarged plan of the concession building. We do have a small physical therapy room there in the back, as well as public restrooms that would accommodate the entire facility. There's a small storage area there for any equipment that might be needed. The concession area would not be planned to have any direct cooking. It would basically just be selling popcorn, candy, maybe some hot and hold cabinets. Pretty simple, typical concessions for a high school situation. This is a small maintenance building where we would house any tractors, lawn equipment, anything that would be necessary just for the overall upkeep of the facility. Again, very standard construction, concrete walls, wood truss roof. I think we have a metal roof on this. So again, just going for longevity in the overall facility. Any questions regarding the overall building design or intent?
Anyone have any questions? Go ahead.
I don't recall where I heard, but it was suggested that the scoreboards, especially due to hurricanes, that it suggested that they be removable. Is that something that we had considered, or is this scoreboard going to be a removable one?
That had not previously been brought up, but it's certainly something we could look at. I don't see any reason why the system couldn't be removable. Most of the scoreboards these days are fairly interchangeable and just modular systems. So you would just have to get somebody out there to kind of lift it and remove it. That is something we could certainly look into, and I don't think it would be an issue to provide that.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Did have one.
Go ahead, Councilmember Stanky.
Thank you. At one time, we were talking about potential for public use of this field. Is that no longer a topic?
I think we, as a council, made a recommendation that it was going to be like a sole source, strictly just for the charter schools.
Okay, thank you.
Any other presentation?
Nope, that ends the presentation, but I do have the design team here if anybody had any additional questions.
Okay. All right, and it looks like, I guess it's important to recognize the price tag that comes along with this particular project. It looks like the original development area cost is a little over $11 million with alternate area 1, which is the additional parking and the access point, which is about $777,000, and then the additional alternate number 2 area, which looks like it has about a $184,000 price tag, for a total of $12 million for all options if we chose to go that direction. I guess the $1 million, or actually $12 million question, Mr. City Manager, is how are we going to pay for it?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is someone from finance here? Mark's coming up.
Okay.
They were prepared for this question.
That's
Oh, yeah, we're prepared for the question. Mark Mason, interim assistant city manager. As far as how to pay for it, as we discussed the last time we had one of these meetings with the Charter School Authority, the goal would be we would issue debt. If this is going to be solely a charter school facility, then the LCI funding is available in order to pay back the debt. In other words, we would amend the lease. Actually, the lease is already in place, and we would simply just pick up the cost of the annual debt service payment associated with this facility.
Okay.
So the city would issue the debt, as we had with all other charter school facilities, and then the annual debt service would be included in the annual lease payment from the Charter School Authority.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one last thing also, if this project is approved, do you have a timeline, to completion?
So yes, with our soft cost and design fee proposal, we included a anticipated schedule, and round numbers, it's 8 to 12 months of design and permitting.
Design, permitting, and construction, is that what I heard you say, 8 to 12 months?
Not construction. So construction, we'd honestly need a GC to get involved and understand what the construction of the buildings would take. As far as AstroTurf, they might be able to give a time frame on the field itself. But as far as the design and permitting effort here, it would be 8 to 12 months.
Okay. All right. And I guess before I open it up to council, does the school board have a recommendation on the, I guess, number one, that it's going to be exclusive use by the charter school? Is that your recommendation? And my next question would be, do you have a recommendation as a body as far as the two options that have been provided?
As far as the sole use with the school, I believe that it was Mr. City Attorney who counseled us that the LCI funds could not be commingled, so it would have to be solely a school, all or nothing. So we decided at our last joint meeting that the LCI funds that we would be receiving at the 100% mark in 2028 would allow us to cover the full expense of this. And I think that we did think that the 12 million was about the mark that we were going to hit. I think that with the parking situation that we struggle with day in and day out at the school, as well as for the good of the residents that live on Oasis Boulevard, I think that going with the both options for the parking with that egress that goes out would be beneficial for the community at large, as well as all the students and the parents for the pickup lines. We do have an unusual amount of parent pickup rather than bus students, so we struggle with that constantly. So if we had another egress or, way in, especially for the football events, I think it would be very, very helpful to have another, way in and out of the school. So that would be my personal recommendation, but again, I don't want to speak on behalf of the whole board. So.
Any one of the charter governing school board members like to comment before I open up to council?
Yeah, Karen Michaels. Yeah, I agree, and the parking is such a dire situation today with kids parking in the mud constantly that definitely we need the additional parking, and I agree with the egress is really important particularly for games and events, but just in general as well.
Thank you. Could you pull the slide where it showed the field and the two options? Yeah. For me, first off, since it's going to be exclusively used by the charter school, or that's what their recommendation is, they'll be utilizing their LCI funds in order to pay for it. We'll just have to do the debt in the beginning, but they'll pay for it over time. I would definitely support the project to move forward. My only concern, I agree that the green shaded area, that's something we should probably do now, especially since that's going to give us an additional exit point or an entrance point to the track area. The only thing I'm a little apprehensive about is opening up to the blue section up into the Coviella Park there, but I think it's an excellent opportunity to utilize that as a emergency vehicles access point where they can get in quickly and get out quickly. So if it had some type of controlled access points, I think that would be a golden opportunity to use that for emergency vehicles only and make sure the public utilizes the other areas. That would be my recommendation, but I would recommend doing the two options in the project as noted, that was in the presentation. Councilmember Kilrain.
Sure, I'm supportive of the project as described. I just had some questions with respect to the LCI financing. Mason, if you might, the longevity of that being able to be accessible, do we have a knowledge of certainty how long that LCI is going to be made available?
Mark Mason again. The LCI funds were put in place via change of statute. It's a statutory authority. At the minimum, we would expect that it would be here until the legislature changes it. And I don't know if that will ever happen or otherwise.
Okay.
So the position is that, the Department of Education for the state of Florida has set aside funds every year of some number associated with capital outlay for charter schools. The city has received those funds every year since they began. They were and still are called PICO fundings, but the legislature put in this revenue source called the local capital improvement as a share of the 1.5 mil capital outlay or the capital items for the school district. So we are now sharing that on a per student basis associated with Lee County.
Okay. It's probably premature at this time, but have you looked at any kind of leasing schedule and/or repayment schedule for that?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and what does that look like?
Depending on whether we utilize, it'll depend on the term of the debt, but anywhere between 700 and depending on whether it's the same dollar value when we go out to bid. Right now, it could be anywhere between 800 and $1.2 million
Okay.
annually.
And that still makes available enough LCI to replace any independent operation support that the charter school needs within itself?
Based upon the current lease language, the allowable use of the LCI funds comes off the top first before anything else occurs
Okay.
for operations, for the three operating line items that are associated with that.
I'm in full support. Based on that, it's a good deal, I think. Thank you.
Councilmember Steinke.
Thank you, Mayor. With regard to the emergency access, that blue shaded area being emergency access, would it accomplish the same thing if that was only available at game time, so to speak? That as attendees are arriving at the stadium to access the parking lot that way, and then it would be closed off at game time to only accommodate emergency personnel, and then at the end of the game, allow traffic out of the parking lot. It would seem like that would take a little bit of the lifting off of Oasis Boulevard to be able to come in at a secondary entrance and to leave at a secondary entrance, but once game time began, that it would only be open to emergency. And it'd be interesting to hear the charter board and what you think about that being ingress, egress for spectators, participants, prior to and at the end of the games. Because I know what getting out of that place, even if that other parking lot's there, I know what getting in and out of those places are like.
Okay, Councilmember Laster.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few questions maybe for Mr. Mason or you, Mr. City Manager. So the LCI funds, did I hear said that replaced PICO, correct? It's no longer called PICO, right? Okay. And then, Mr. Mason, you said that those funds could be used for operations, but it's a local capital improvement. Is it just for capital improvements?
No, and I think we went through this at the most recent winter workshop.
We did.
And so in this particular circumstance, the PICO is not yet replaced by the LCI, but we anticipate that it will likely
Okay.
be replaced.
Okay,
As the LCI, it comes in at 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, and 100%. So by 2028, the total amount of the LCI fund should be at 100%. So we expect that the PICO funds will, kind of walk off after that.
okay, and then,
And as far as the operating expenses, it's limited. There are 3 specific operating expenses that can be used, that LCI funds can be used for. In this case, IT expenses for software, for computer equipment, et cetera, of which 100% of the total cost is currently funded with the LCI/PICO fundings. Also, you can purchase buses for transport of children, and you can also pay for the property and casualty liability insurance. Those are the only 3 operating expenses that the LCI funds can be used for.
so no increases for teacher salary or
No.
anything? Okay. Okay, and then what about the debt service on the buildings? Can you refresh my memory? I know we talked about that during the workshop.
Current debt
as well.
service on the buildings is $3.2 million a year. That carries probably for at least another 10 to 12 years.
10 to 12. Okay, okay. I would also be in support of this. We've talked about it for a long time, for many years that I can recall. And I do agree about the parking. I think what the mayor said is true. Like, we should definitely start with that because that is an ongoing issue and has been since the schools started. So, okay, thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Lehman?
Yes. I would be in favor of this. I just have one question. Joe Coviello Park is a wetlands. It floods very easily. That parking lot floods. If you want to use that off Oasis Woods Lane and use that parking lot there, how are you going to handle it when it floods?
So that's a very good question, and absolutely something we'll have to look into during the next portion of the design phase. Oasis has its own stormwater management system, and obviously it will berm itself out. So we will then have to connect through Coviello Park, which is kind of its own wetland and stormwater system. So, I mean, we'll have to design accordingly. So the reality is that parking lot there may go up in elevation.
Yeah, that may, it may work as an emergency parking lot type of situation, but not as a regular access, because as I say, it floods easily.
We will definitely take that.
I jokingly have said many times, gee, if you so much as spit, the damn thing floods. And, it just seems that if you're going to use that as regular access, that could be a problem.
Okay, noted, and the design team will definitely look at that during the next portion of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. City Manager? I'm
Hey.
sorry. Let me go to Councilmember Kaduke, and then I'll let you wind it up.
I'm in full support with both alternates. That's all.
Good, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Couple of things. I've been to the park several times with staff. I'm not aware of the parking lot flooding. I am aware of the park itself flooding, and we have signs up there. But we did set the elevation of the parking lot to be above the floodplain. So I just want to make sure that we have that. In regard to the blue driveway, I don't know what the reasoning or the thought was, Mr. Mayor, on why you wanted to restrict it, but I would, from a city manager perspective, just share some concerns. If that park and Oasis Woods Lane becomes a point of stacking for parents or kids leaving and it's backed up on Agua Linda, we will definitely get calls and have, environmentalists who are upset that they can't get in or get out of the park while they're waiting every morning or every afternoon. So I don't know what your reasoning was, but I would say from a parks perspective and trying to have as we know, limited green space, giving priority to ingress and egress during times of school, I think would cause us some downstream issues. So I would just ask you to be mindful of that. And we could, I'm not speaking against the blue line, but from an operational perspective, would just like you to be mindful of that, and maybe we could work that out with the school superintendent. But I'm almost certain we would get complaints about, I was stuck in there for an hour while I was trying to get out, or I couldn't get in while parents were waiting to drop off their kid. However, the thought was to utilize it. And that's all I wanted to mention.
Thank you,
Oh,
Council.
one other thing. We did have the last meeting with the previous council, and so we had that discussion about use. So I would like, if I can, for this council to give us a reaffirmation of dedicated to the school, or if you want us to consider opening up. So, I mean, I don't want to have to revisit it, but just a reaffirmation of that would be helpful for us. This way we know the school's still designing with the design team and not the city trying to put stuff in there.
Okay, I got two other lights on. I'll go to them, and then maybe we'll go down the line on that particular topic. Councilmember Lehman?
Yeah, did I understand you correctly, Mr. City Manager? That the parking lot, you don't feel the parking lot floods, that it's set higher? I've been up there, it does. And not only that, you mentioned some concerns about when parents are coming to pick up their kids and whatnot with that road. They're on the opposite side of the road, on the opposite side of the island, so it really shouldn't be affected by it. Unless we're, okay, I must
Maybe we're
have
not on the
misunderstood
yeah.
you then, excuse me.
No, I'll clarify with you. I'm thinking if that is open,
Yes.
and we are allowing either as a form of alleviating traffic concerns for parent pickup or drop off or student parking, leaving or coming, the times when that is all happening, if somebody is in the parking lot already enjoying the park and they go to leave, they could be stuck in that.
Yeah, okay, all right, I see what you mean. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you.
Thank you. Councilmember Steinke?
Yes, thank you. I never said whether I was a proponent of this or not, and so I absolutely do support it. And I also support it as does Councilmember Kadouk from the standpoint of both alternatives. You know, better to put that, better to pave that area when the construction's going on rather than change our mind somewhere down the road and come in and put it in after the fact. So however we would decide to use it, I think it'd be better for the relatively, in the total scope of the project, for the small change, to go ahead and have it there, and we decide how to use it. When I was talking about ingress, egress, I really was only talking about, for basically for game nights and whatnot. So isolated use. It wouldn't be how to get to and from school every day and parents dropping people off and that. It would simply be for game times. And then obviously you'd have to police the road to make sure that people aren't parking there if they're not supposed to park there and all the rest of it. But so I am in favor, and I am in favor with both alternatives.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, and, for me, my concern with that one segment of, the third option was simply commingling those large amounts of traffic into the park area. That's really what my concern was. Kids running around in the park, and then all of a sudden you got 200 cars that are coming through or have the potential of coming through. I just think that's a safety concern. The other concern that I had was the quick and easy accessibility for public safety response if needed there. That's why I said some type of a limited access, whether it's a card or whatnot, to get there. We do know that police regularly are at these events, gives them a great opportunity for staging. If, by the grace of God, if ambulance or fire personnel needed to respond, they could get in fairly quick and easy without a lot of pedestrians walking around. So that's kind of why I said what I said on that particular segment. But I agree. I think while they're there, it's cheaper to do it now and have that no matter what the use is, how it's controlled. I'll leave that up to the professionals But I think it's a good opportunity to go ahead and put that in now and let the design team make a determination and a recommendation to the city manager how that's utilized. So with that being said, I know discussions in the past, the previous council had whether this, because the original concept was a concept that the charter school could use the facility and maybe some recreational youth organizations could use it secondarily when the school's not using it. Since those types of discussions, now we have the LCI funding that is available that we didn't have when those discussions were had many months ago. I think the biggest thing to remember with the LCI funds that was mentioned here today can't be commingled. So it's either exclusive to the charter school, they can pay for it, or if we are going to utilize this facility and the downtime for our youth organizational facilities, then the city's going to have to pay for that facility. So I think their ask is to be exclusively used by the charter schools, and I think from a funding perspective, that's the best way to utilize it as well. So with that, I'll open up with Councilmember Kaduc. We'll just go down the line and whether they're exclusive to the charter schools or if we want to open it up for public use.
Mayor, if I may say something first?
Yes, sir.
I would agree that originally it was born out of necessity that we were going to partner. I think that we felt that was our only avenue. But since LCI funds have been introduced and we can, it takes away a lot of those logistics on who's going to have first use of the field. And it takes away a lot of the logistics on if we were going to have the community come to the fields as well, we would also have to police it. We would have to have fences around it, and we would have to monitor who's coming and going. And if it's solely through the school, that's not the issue anymore. And that was a big part of it before, is how are we going to contain this with having the community use it at the same time. So if it is just school use only, that takes away all those other things as well. So thank you.
I think one other thing that hasn't been mentioned here today, and I think Mr. Mason touched on it briefly on what type of, what the LCI money could be utilized, and he gave the 3 scenarios. I didn't hear in those scenarios the operational cost for the yearly operational cost of the school. That LCI money cannot be used for that. Is that what I heard, Mr. Mason, to be correct?
If you don't mind, I'll put something up on the Elmo. Make sure everybody sees the same language. You look at, E.
Okay.
Under E, it's specific renovation, repair, and maintenance for any school facility that the charter school owns or is purchasing through a lease purchase or a long-term lease of 5 years or longer. Clearly, this would be a lease of 5 years or longer, so that certainly the maintenance, repair, or any renovations to the property would be available
Okay.
for
All right.
LCI funds.
That's
I
great
just
to
wanted
hear.
to make sure that everybody saw the same language.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Councilmember Laster?
Sorry, Mayor, you asked the question I was going to ask. My other question is to Mr. Jackson and the board. I mean, my concern, I feel better knowing that this money can be used for maintenance moving forward. My concern is just the sustainability and viability of this, obviously, because, you know, when I first became a council member back in 2017, we were dealing with 5 years of deferred maintenance in the buildings, transportation. I mean, it was a mess. So I feel better knowing that. But do you all feel like, say something happens down the road with LCI, none of us have a crystal ball, but same with, you know, the PICO funds at one point, do you feel like you can sustain this, you know, eventually and actually add more to it than just the LCI funds? Like, and I apologize, I don't know how much contribution your foundation is doing anymore for the schools, because I know years ago they were doing quite a bit. So I was just curious.
Sure. I think with the political landscape, I think that we're only going to see more funding for charter schools. So I think that I don't foresee the LCI funding going away. I think that was the lifeline that the legislature was giving to charter schools.
Okay.
So I can only see it increasing.
Okay.
As far as the foundation goes, yeah, they're continuing to grow. They're actually going to be putting on a gala in March, and I think that's going to be an enormous fundraiser. That's going to be a year-over-year benefit as well. And we do foresee this field as something that we can actually lease out as well. So that's part of the design plan, is that we can possibly lease this out to other entities that might need to utilize us. So it can also be
I
a
agree.
moneymaker for us as well.
Okay, good. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Kaduke. We'll go back to the original question, just going down the line.
I'm for exclusivity.
Yeah, for me too, I think with the advent of the LCI funds, where it wouldn't be both of our monies dealing with it, I don't have any problem with it being exclusive to the school.
Yeah, I'm for, I'm all for exclusive use. And basically with the LCI funds, I think that there's enough degree of certainty that they're going to last for a period of time. And if we run into a condition where they go away, we're going to have to look at the same thing that we did in restructure and lease with the buildings. You know, we may, it's already a sunken investment that we'll be indebted for. The charter school will have that indebtedness, so we'll have to cover it some way. You restructure the lease arrangement to prolong it and recoup it that way. So I think the options there, even if, say, 10 years from now, the LCI funds aren't there, and it's not completely paid for by that time. I think we have a capability of doing that again, so.
Exclusivity.
Exclusivity.
Exclusivity due to the safety concerns.
Yeah, I have just some comments, 'cause I didn't speak, but it's consistent with what the high schools are doing in the Cape, anyway. But to make sure that we're clear, that the message goes out that this has nothing to do with the debt piece that we currently have restructured. This has been, with those funds now, it's taken care of. So with that being said, and the consistency, I'm all about the exclusivity.
Same, exclusivity. Thank you, Mayor.
And I'll give the charter school last opportunity. Any comments that you want to make?
I do actually. I'd like to tell a little story if you would entertain me for just a moment. So in October, we were playing Ida Baker, who is the school that butts up right next to ours. We actually have the same boundaries. And it took me about 40 minutes to get into this game. The line was all the way down the street, right? So all while driving, waiting in this line, I'm thinking, my God, they're really into their football over at Ida Baker. It was their homecoming game. So I'm thinking it's just going to be packed in there, right? So I get into the sports complex finally, and I'm thinking that it's just going to be outrageously one-sided, and there's going to be tons of fans over there. So I get in there, and much to my surprise, it's one-sided, but it's actually, there's much more of our fans there than there were Ida Baker fans there. And they have double the population at their high school than we have. So we had much more fans there than they did, and it was actually their homecoming event. So, I mean, that says a lot about what we're producing here, I think. So you can see why I'm so excited that this project's finally coming to fruition. And I'm so glad that our students are finally going to have a home field that they can be proud of. So thank you very much, Council.
Thank you. Any other board members?
One more thing, on the blue egress, I will first say that although the administration would have to be involved, I don't think it would work for school pickup and drop off, just based on the way the pickup and drop off lines work. You'd have to come back and go through, it wouldn't make any sense. But regardless, in the end, I do think it's cost effective to build it now, to have that be part of the design, and then make the decision later, as some of you suggested, on what the appropriate use is, taking into everything into consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Any other comments by council?
Just real quick, Mayor, if I could.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Was the main takeaway here, Mr. City Manager, whether we wanted to do the exclusivity or not? Or I don't remember us all having are we supposed to have some sort of unanimous consent on the alternate areas or not? I mean, do you have what you need?
Yeah, I've got consensus to move forward with all three, you know, the base plus the two alternates and exclusive use to the school.
And then just two other random notes here. just to kind of make sure that I'm of the same understanding. When we originally did this, it was at least tossed around that it was going to be sort of a two-phase project with maybe some extension of like a baseball field.
Yep, you see the,
The rendering,
open-
which I kind of have an issue with if that's on the front page of this proposal and then it's not on any of the plans. I mean, is it in, is it out? Obviously, it's out, but why is it? Are we completely disregarding the phase two, or is that still kind of lingering
That-
around?
That's a future phase. There was no design costs in this engagement. Yeah, so we've not paid for anything to even explore layout. There's nothing in.
Can we make sure, I guess, when we put this out to the public, that we don't include this rendering of the baseball field in? I mean, I don't want that to create any sort of communication issues with what we're putting out versus what we're producing. And then the other thing is, as far as the PD&E, I know we originally engaged for the design up to this point. Do we have that, is that contract locked in for the remainder of the design as well? Or does that go back out to bid?
For,
The remainder of the design?
you're engaged through 100%? You're engaged through 100%?
Yes, we are engaged through 100%,
Okay,
correct.
because I know originally it was just kind of a, hey, let's spec it out and then engage in some further discussion. The only reason I ask that is because I guess it's not pertinent here because we're locked in, but as we move forward, I'm going to start being a little more particular about our timelines, because I mean, 9 to 12 months for, in my opinion, permitting and design seems pretty extensive for, the scope of, or lack thereof of the project. In true government fashion, I seem like we very routinely just kind of grant these long extended contracts. I'd like to try to curtail that as much as possible. If we're already engaged, that's that. But in the future, I'd like to see us, when we start bidding these things out, put more particularity on how long these processes are taking.
Sure, and that's been a common theme from you all, from the entire board. So I've added on the consent or any contract, you will now see in that description, I have the actual duration of that contract, so that could be a focus for you to look
And
at.
again, completely outside of this realm and just
Yeah.
generally now, as far as procurement, since we're here and it'll only take a second, is that part of any sort of bid information that we request, is when they put their bids in, how long have they perceived that it's going to take them to complete the services?
So not under CC&A, so Competitive Consultant Negotiation Act. It is a qualification-based analysis, so we are looking for the firm that has the best expertise to deliver the engineering, the architecture, surveying. There's a
Sure.
So when we get into, we pick the firm that is the most qualified. If and when we start negotiating a contract, they cannot meet our contractual terms for the duration, then we could explore going to somebody else.
But we can't ask that
Well,
upfront?
you can make that a condition of the analysis.
Perfect, understood. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned.